cello does not begin in a concert hall. It does not even begin in a luthier's workshop. Its story starts much earlier, sometimes decades before its first note is ever played, deep inside a forest, a place where trees grow slowly, year after year, eventually becoming an instrument capable of filling an entire concert hall with emotion. To build a traditional cello, luthiers rely primarily on two species of wood: spruce for the soundboard, maple for the back, ribs, and neck. These woods are not chosen simply because they are beautiful. They are chosen because of the way they behave acoustically. Spruce is remarkably light, stiff, and resonant. Maple is denser, harder, and more reflective. Together, they create a balance capable of transforming the vibration of four strings into a rich and powerful voice. Sometimes for years. After harvesting, the wood is carefully dried and aged. This stage is essential. Wood that still contains too much moisture can warp, crack, or produce poor acoustic results. For a luthier, the sound of a future cello begins long before the first tool touches the wood. It begins with selecting the right material. Once the wood is ready, construction can finally begin. The soundboard, often called the top plate, is made from two carefully matched pieces of spruce. The grain must be straight. The density must be consistent. The acoustic properties must be as similar as possible. The edges are planned with extraordinary precision before being glued together. This center joint will eventually become the acoustic backbone of the instrument. Once the glue has cured, the two pieces behave as one. The outline of the cello is then traced onto the wood, and now one of the most demanding stages begins: carving. Contrary to what many people imagine, the top plate is not flat. It is shaped into a carefully designed arch. This curved geometry plays a critical role in both strength and sound production. Using gouges, finger planes, and scrapers, the luthier gradually removes wood. Every cut matters. Every fraction of a millimeter affects the final sound. Too thick, and the plate becomes stiff and unresponsive. Too thin, and it may lose strength or become unstable. Finding the perfect balance is one of the greatest challenges in cello making. Once the exterior arching is complete, attention turns to the inside. The plate is hollowed out and carefully graduated. Graduation refers to the controlled variation of thickness across the wood. Different areas are left thicker or thinner, depending on how the luthier wants the instrument to vibrate. The goal is not simply to remove material. The goal is to guide sound. Next come the famous F-holes. Their elegant shape has become one of the most recognizable features of the violin family. These openings are far more than decoration. They allow air to move in and out of the instrument. The holes are drilled and carved entirely by hand. The top plate begins to look unmistakably like a musical instrument. Beneath that top plate, another critical component is installed: the bass bar. Made from spruce, this long wooden brace is glued to the inside of the soundboard. It helps support the structure against the pressure of the strings, while also influencing how vibrations travel across the instrument. While work continues on the top plate, another set of components is taking shape: the ribs. These thin strips of maple form the sides of the cello. To create their graceful curves, the wood is heated and bent over a bending iron. Under heat and moisture, the maple temporarily becomes flexible. The luthier carefully shapes each curve by hand. Every curve contributes to the final silhouette of the instrument. Attention now shifts to the back plate. Like the top, it is made from two pieces of wood joined together, but this time the material is maple, harder, denser. The back is carved using many of the same techniques applied to the soundboard. An exterior arch is shaped. The interior is hollowed. Thicknesses are carefully controlled. Together, the top and back create the acoustic engine of the cello. When the ribs and back are ready, assembly can begin. The rib structure is glued to the back plate. Then the top plate is attached, sealing the instrument. At this stage, it already resembles the instrument we recognize today, but it still cannot produce a single note. Around the perimeter of the instrument, a decorative feature known as purfling is installed. This thin inlay consists of narrow strips embedded near the edges. It serves both aesthetic and practical purposes. Then comes one of the most mysterious stages in the entire process: varnishing. For centuries, varnish recipes have been among the most closely guarded secrets in instrument making. Each workshop develops its own traditions and techniques. Varnish protects the wood from moisture, dirt, and wear, but it also affects sound. Achieving the right balance requires both experience and patience. Several coats are applied. Each layer must dry before the next is added. Slowly, the cello develops its final appearance. The flame of the maple becomes visible beneath the surface. The instrument begins to acquire its own identity. Once varnishing is complete, setup work begins. At the top of the instrument, the tuning pegs are adjusted one by one. They must turn smoothly while still holding significant string tension. For many luthiers, adjusting the sound post is one of the most delicate tasks in the entire setup process. Finally, the strings are installed. A cello traditionally carries 4 strings, C, G, D, and A. As they are brought up to tension, they exert enormous pressure on the instrument. For the first time, the cello is capable of speaking. The luthier plays the instrument, listens carefully, evaluates its response. Every modification is aimed at revealing the instrument's full potential. Every cello develops its own personality, its own character, its own voice. In total, crafting a fine handmade cello often requires between 150 and 300 hours of work. Because in the end, a cello is not simply an object, it is a handmade acoustic machine, a remarkable balance of physics, craftsmanship, and art. And when the bow finally touches the strings for the very first time, years of growth, seasoning, carving, assembly, and adjustment come together in a single moment. The moment a voice is born.